Test, 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 test. Okay. Hi guys, this is PokeBuddy Nick. I'm going to be recording another FP VOD. This game is a Terran vs. Protoss, and the build I'm going to be showing you today is a strong late game macro build that is a really solid build if you want to get better, because it helps all aspects of your play because you generally get into good games. So the map is Coliseum. I would have played on one of the tournament maps, but none of them are maps of the week on IC Cup, and couldn't get a game with a teammate, and I really wanted to make this VOD, so it's just on Coliseum for now. This build I'm going to be doing is more commonly known as the Flash build. You get 2-1 upgrades and push out around when you're maxed supply off 3 bases. This game I don't upgrade that well, and I make a few mistakes, but it's a pretty strong it's a really strong late game opening, and if you are able to deny his expansions while you're building up, you will have a pretty easy time destroying a slightly lower level Terran. So he scouted really early, so I'm taking my gas to avoid a gas steal. That's one thing you always want to watch out for. If a Protoss scouts on with his pylon probe on a 2-player map, or if he scouts you first on a 4-player map, you gotta watch out for him taking your gas, because that's a really brutal thing. To be honest, quite often when that happens to me, I just proxy a barracks, make a bunch of Marines, and send 12 SCVs and try to bunker rush them. But that's for another day. So yeah, I went basically 11 on 11 supply. I made my gas in my barracks, and I'm scouting on 13 supply. One thing you might notice I do is that when I scout, I use the SCV to make another supply to finish my wall. By the way, for walling, it's best to have you want the supply depots to be either above or to the right of your barracks to block zealots and probes, or above to block zerglings. Zealots and probes are slightly bigger sprites than zerglings, so you want to be careful that if you're playing Terran vs. Zerg, that you can block those as well. But this is Terran vs. Protoss, so it doesn't really matter. I'm making factory. He's keeping his scout alive pretty well. I actually played this guy before, and I was able to do a 2-factory rush on him and kill him, so I think he's making sure to keep his scout alive to be careful. Generally, if I wall, especially in Coliseum, I won't make a Marine, because I don't really need one unless an early zealot, or as in this case, probe gets in my base. Because of the probe, I make a Marine just to speed up its death. So, since I made a Marine, I'm gonna expand around 21 supply when I start my machine shop. This build, the starting build, is called the Siege Expand, which is how you start off the Flash build, and so I'm just gonna get a tank and a couple tanks and siege as fast as possible to defend my expansion. My scout, sadly I scouted him last. Actually, if you're smart, unlike me this game, and you notice that he scouts you first, like if he does a 7 scouts on 8 supply and then find you first, you're pretty much guaranteed that he is one of the spots next to you. But I did not notice or think of it, so I scouted all the way around the map. Anyways, so my expansion's going up. I can tell something's up because he had 2 probes blocking, so I'm gonna send out another scout and hope I can get in, because if a Protoss blocks his entrance with probes, he's generally either going Dark Templar or Reaver, and you want to see 2 things. One thing that can tip you off on this is if you do not see his Cybernetics Core spinning for the Dragoon range upgrade. If you do see it spinning, it's pretty much he'll be either doing a slower rush or no rush at all, which is more likely. If he is not getting range, he is pretty much guaranteed either getting an extremely fast Nexus or a or Dark Templar or Reavers. I barely see his Templar archives, and this is critical because I don't think he knows I've seen it. So I am gonna immediately put up an engineering bay. You want to get an engineering bay around 28, 30 supply in this build, anyways. So now my expansion's done, and I'm transferring SCVs. The fact that I know he's going Dark Templar really helps me because even if I had, like, before, if I knew something was up, but I wasn't sure what he was doing, this will allow me to make a perfect defense for it and repel it with little to no damage done. And therefore be way ahead for the late game, and it doesn't even impair my build. After you get so yeah, I'm just sieging at my natural, in case he tries to destroy my supply depot and go in my base with the Dark Templar, as you may have seen in my, Dark Templar FP VOD. I'm aware that he might go shuttle and drop the Dark Templar, so I'm putting turrets all over the perimeter of my base so that he can't drop, and I also got really early scans so that if he manages to drop, I will be able to eliminate them with no problem. So, at this point I'm playing a little defensive. Generally I wouldn't get the Academy this early, nor get this many turrets, but since I know he's going Dark Templar, I'm able to spend this much money on defense without being behind. That's one thing you also want to think about, like, for other things, such as when I took an SCV off and got my gas early and cut SCVs for a second when I noticed he scouted early. That's just because, like, if you know he's made a small sacrifice, you can afford to make a small sacrifice and still be fine and not behind. Now I'm getting vulture speed and making some vultures. This is to deny his third base, because if he knows I'm going for the flash build and getting a really early 2 expansions, and that he will expand more himself. So now his shuttle is here, and I was correct. He's going Dark Templar. He's going Dark Templar drop, so I'm taking a few units up here so that he can't really do much damage. See, he's managed to drop 3 Dark Templar in his base, but he lost his shuttle in the process. So I'm able to destroy this drop with relative ease and not lose that much. I lost a Marine and a Vulture and like 2 SCVs for a shuttle and 3 Dark Templars. He could have expanded almost twice with that money, so that's a really big deal, actually, that I was able to defend it that flawlessly because I scouted it. I'm getting an early armory. I'm not actually sure if I've gotten it yet, but I'm going to be getting an early armory. Yeah, I have an armory with +1 weapons going. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's one of the important components of this build. As I said earlier, the upgrades late game are really what makes this build a strong build. And Flash basically actually invented this build to counter carrier builds and like abusive builds on maps that were against Terran, because they got good upgrades late game against carriers and stuff. So I killed a probe that may or may not have been trying to go to make his third. Now I'm trying to get vultures in his base to kill some probes, but I fail. However, I scout an early Stargate. This is also important. Now I know he's going 2 base arbiters. This means I gotta prepare for a couple things. I either have to push like right now or not at all for a long time. This is because stasis will destroy my early pushes very easily. I also have to prepare for recall, so I'm gonna make a lot of turrets around my base and make some extra Goliaths to fend them off, as well as eventually get science vessels with the EMP in case I can catch an arbiter before it reaches my base. Always, by the way, if you have extra buildings lying around, just lift them off to take less space, and so you'll have more room in your base for supply and things. So now I'm planting a mine at this expansion, or 2 mines, I guess. 2 mines at this expansion so that he can't take his third base, and I also pick off the probe, which is actually pretty critical. That is definitely the most annoying thing is Protoss. If Terran picks off your probe going to make an expansion with vultures. That's really irritating. So always try to keep vultures around the map, and like if you see a random probe, definitely kill it. Or keep vultures near potential expansions. Plant a mine at expansions so you can't put the nexus down. Anything you can do to delay his expansions just makes your late game upgrades and push and power that much better, because he won't have as much money to reinforce himself and do various things with. So I know he's going the Arbiter, so